Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of At 7 with Rich, coming to you every Wednesday at 7 p.m, available on YouTube and on Facebook. Thanks to those that have joined me over the last few weeks, and I really hope that the talks have helped you and inspired you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for those who have hit that already to receive all new videos and updates. Hey, a song might even be coming your way soon, so look out for that. But today we're going to be looking at success and what we measure by, and what we see as being successful and what we need to do to be successful. So what is success? What do we see success as? What do we measure it by? Let's have a look. Is it status, or is it wealth, or is it the good life, living the good life? Is that what makes you a successful individual? Is it maybe leadership, or is it maybe power, or being famous, or is it by your achievements? So what do you measure that by? What I can tell you is that we're going to be looking at a guy by the name of Jeremiah today, a guy from the Bible, and certainly myself. If we had to measure ourselves by that, I think we'd fall ridiculously short of those kind of things. But before we go into the scriptures, and we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, I just want to tell you a little bit about this guy Jeremiah before we go a bit further. So Jeremiah is a guy that lived in the 16th, 17th century, and you're probably saying, hey Richard, what can we learn from a guy that lived so many years ago? But there's a lot we can learn, and over the next 2 weeks we're going to be really just through the scriptures, just going to discover a few things that can really help us with our success in our life. So Jeremiah was a very sensitive person. He actually wasn't the type of prophet that wanted to actually have to go out there and have to actually tell people about God's judgment if they don't do what God has instructed them to do. So he was quite emotional and very sensitive. So this was something that didn't sort of come easy to him. But the word of the Lord was like it's like a burning fire in his heart, and he just couldn't resist anymore. He couldn't. This call in his life, he couldn't. He could not ignore it anymore, and he just had to go out there and do it. And compared to the slides that we've just seen, he was on the complete opposite end of that. He definitely wasn't famous. He definitely wasn't popular. If anything, he was thrown in prison. He was rejected. He was even thrown into a cistern and just left there. Definitely, in the world's eyes, Jeremiah was not a success. So tonight, as you sit there and you're listening to this, wherever you are, in your living room or just on your cell phone, maybe at work, watching this, and maybe you're feeling a bit like Jeremiah. Maybe you're feeling imprisoned. Maybe you're feeling rejected. Maybe you're feeling that you're just not worthy, or you're just not capable, or whatever it is that you're feeling. I'm hoping tonight, through Jeremiah's story, you can really just be inspired. So we're going to start, and we're going to look at 1 Jeremiah, verse 4 to 6 to start us off. And we're going to be looking at the I can'ts and the excuses, and we're going to see if we can pick this up in this passage. So we're going to first start Jeremiah 1, 4 to 6. We're going to be starting with that. The call of Jeremiah. The word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as prophet to the nations. I just want to stop there for a minute. So again, like I said, this channel isn't only for Christians. This channel is for everybody. And whether you believe in God and whether you don't, or whatever religion or your denomination you are from, you believe that there's a creator. We've come from somewhere. For us as Christians, we believe that we come from God, and this very God, we're not going to look at it today, but if you've got a Bible at home, turn to Genesis. If you've never read the Bible before, you can go read Genesis. This very God that's been referred to here, all right, this is the God that formed the heavens and the earth, the very God that was involved in creation and creating creation. This God, as David writes, and I love speaking about David. We've heard about King David over the last. Remember David, the whole giant slayer, that guy, right? David writes in Psalm 139, he writes this, and I love these words. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I love this part, Because this God, the God of all creation, the God that created that created the heavens and the earth, this very God, He knitted you. So I don't know about you, but I don't knit. I know my mother-in-law does a bit of knitting and my daughter does a bit of knitting. But knitting is all about creating something, isn't it? Whether it's a scarf or whether it's a jersey or whatever it is, it's about creating something. And this is what God did with every single one of us. He knitted us. He knitted us into something of purpose and something of cause, and He shaped us in the way He wants to shape us. I love this. He created my inmost being. He knows your inmost being. So this God, right? This God is speaking to Jeremiah, and He's saying, before I formed you in the womb, I already knew you before you were born. I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So let's keep this in mind. Okay? Look at Jeremiah's response. His response is this. Let's just go back one there. His response is this. Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. His response is what? I can't do it. His response is an excuse. I can't do it. Why? Because I'm too young. Because I'm too young. So let's look at this. I can't do it and excuses. I can't do it and excuses. We do the exact same, don't we? We can relate to Jeremiah, can't we? We love using those four-letter word, those four words, and that four-letter word, unfortunately, sometimes in saying that. But I can't do it. I can't do it, and we start making excuses. Let me, just for example, the other day I have a pool, and I was having issues with my pool pump, and I looked at this. The pool pump was leaking out the filter side, and I was like, I can't fix this. I mean, these hands were made for preaching, and I'm a really good cook and I play guitar well, but these hands weren't made for those whole technical kind of things. I never took it at school. It was one of the first things I dropped. So I've never been good with those kinds of things. So I said, I can't do it, and we got a guy to come in and quote. They came in and quoted, and they said 5,000 Rand. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't spend 5,000 Rand on this repair. I just don't, I can't do that in this month. And eventually I got speaking, I got chatting to my brother, and he said, well, do it yourself. And I said, what do you mean? I can't do it myself. This is too technical. And he started to tell me, look, you just need this and this. I said, well, I don't have a pipe wrench. He says, well, I've got a pipe wrench for you. I said, okay. And he said, you need some of this and that. So I went to the pool pump and I had a look at it, and I took a while and I worked it out. And I can tell you, for $700, I fixed it myself. And from not being able to, not be making all the excuses, I don't have the tools, I can't do this, to just taking the time to look at it, evaluate it, and I realized I could actually fix it. Now, that does not make me a pool repair guy, so don't call me to go fix your pool filter, because I'm not an expert, but I was able to actually, what turned out to be a simple solution, I was able to sort it out. Then there's another example I'd like to give you, and then I was helping someone to find a job not so long ago, and I was actually able to find this person a job. And once I said, okay, here's the job, there's a job offer, you can go to this person, contact this person. The response was, well, how am I going to get there? So I said, well, there's buses, there's trains, there's taxis, whatever the case might be. Maybe there's someone that lives in the area, you can get a lift. Oh, no, I don't know about that. So they said, well, and then the person said, well, I haven't been working for a few years, so I don't have clothes. I said, okay, well, you can go open up an account, whatever, or I can buy you some clothes and you can just pay me back once you're working, but we can get you some clothes. Oh, well, I need a haircut. Can you see the excuses that just kept piling on? Eventually, I realized it wasn't a matter of I can't do it. It was a matter of I don't want to do it. So I think the I can't do it, so actually more a case of we don't want to do it. So let's look at finding your success. Finding your success. And we're going to carry on reading from Jeremiah. But the Lord said to me, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. So what have you been called to do? In that, what I've highlighted there, God is saying to Jeremiah, you must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you to. So this is what the Lord has said. This is the calling on Jeremiah's heart. So I want to ask you that question. What's been burning in your heart? What burns in your heart? What is your call in your life? You know, we're not all called to be presidents. We're not all called to be Formula One drivers. We're not all called to be actors and famous singers. But there is something. There's that something that you've been knitted and you've been designed by your Creator for a reason. There's something that you know that's been burning up in your heart, what you should be doing. So we are called to be an influence. We are called to be an influence. Our influence will be our success. Write this down. Our influence will be our success. So what do I mean by this? In episode 1, we looked at turning salt into light. And we looked at Matthew 5 and Jesus' words of, you're the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And this is what we must be in our workplaces. And we said wherever it was, praise Him in the hallways while we were waiting for the door to open. Right? So we're talking about influence, how we influence others. So what do I mean by this? So the first example I want to give you of, it's two gentlemen that I worked with when I was a very young manager. Their names are Mr. Lillystone and Mr. Fulburn that I'd worked with. I was a very young catering supervisor at the time, and I was in charge of Retirement Village kitchen, and Mr. Lillystone was what I'd call my line manager. I reported to him. He was actually in charge of the Retirement Village. Mr. Fulburn was the area catering manager, so he looked after all the different, we had 17 different kitchens within the organization. And these two managers played their roles in influencing this young junior manager and the person I am today, and the experience and the way I handle management today and leadership today is thanks to them. And why is that? Because they influenced me. So Mr. Lillystone, for one, who with all his experience, I'd go to him with problems. And what I loved about him is that he wouldn't just give me the solution to the problem. He would actually teach me through this on how to handle the situation and empower me at the same time. Mr. Fulburn was a bit different. Mr. Fulburn, he just put all his knowledge. He shared all his knowledge with me. He wasn't in a position, he didn't worry that I was going to try and get his position by him sharing his information with me or sharing his experience with me. He empowered me by sharing knowledge. And this was knowledge about labor relations, even things that went beyond my job, but that would help me become a better manager. So it's thanks to them, I took that influence. Their influence influenced me within my kitchen to such an extent that the setup we had was when a catering supervisor went on leave, they would get a substitute in. They had like what they call a substitute one in, who was employed by the company just to fill in while you were on leave. My kitchen was the only kitchen that never needed one of those. Why? Because from that higher management to junior management to the head of my staff, they were able to run that kitchen without me there. Why? Because I had taught it. There was this flow down of influence, right? And that was the success of that kitchen that I ran. Another example, and Sean Peters Media, you've heard me mention it. My cousin Sean Peters, he does Sean Peters commentary and media. What is Sean's success measured by? There we go. If you go onto his Facebook page, you'll see those cool pics. So what is his success measured by? Is it measured by these worldly things? Yes, maybe some. But it's mostly due to his influence on the mountain biking community. You see, it's through his influence of enthusiasm. It's through his influence of creating awareness of events and what's going to happen. It's through him creating different types of events, different commentary when he goes to commentate, making it exciting, explaining the route. You see, already before you go onto the route, you already know what to expect. Not only that, from a social media platform, just being able to, even during this lockdown, to have riders get excited again, right? It's all about creating that influence. Your influence will be your success. Our influence will be our success. We're not going to go into this today, and this will be, on another night we'll talk about this. But in my opinion, the greatest personality trait of a good leader is this: you rock up, you show up. That's all what's required from you. A good leader shows up, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, or whether you don't want to be there. You rock up. The other end of the spectrum is yes, we've spoken about all the positive stuff, but I've also been negatively influenced. And I've had unfortunately, for a short time, I worked with a leader, a manager that influenced me actually in the wrong direction, and actually influenced me. And I realized when in dealing with then my colleagues and also the people affiliated with the company, that I actually started to become a bit like this person simply because of this influence. So if you're an owner, a business owner, or anything like that, and you're watching this, I really want you to reflect that, because I can honestly tell you, I watched the people around me change and become like this person. And I promised myself I wouldn't become like that person, but eventually I did. Okay? Because as a leader, when you put in a position of leadership, and yes, I'm speaking to you, all the leaders out there, right? You need to be very careful with how you influence your staff, how you influence your subordinates, because it's your influence that will determine the success of your company. If you're going to treat them like rubbish, you can expect rubbish out. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it it is what it is. Right? If you treat them well, and you treat them with all the information they need, you equip them with everything they need, you will influence them. Share your knowledge. Share how you became a success. They don't want your position, I can tell you that now. They want to earn a living. They want to be a success in whether they're an accountant, or whether they're a buyer, or whether they're the guy delivering the goods. They want to be a success. Help them to be a success. You're the person that can influence them to be that success. So to conclude, let's read the last bit of our Jeremiah passage. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I've put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and to tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. God equipped Jeremiah. Jeremiah didn't want to do this. Okay? He had this burning in his heart, this desire in his heart. This is what we've been speaking about. The word of the Lord was like a burning fire in his heart. He's a sensitive, emotional guy. He didn't want to have to go and, do it. He actually said, I can't do it, I'm too young. And God is telling this creator that is knit in him, in his mother's womb, and knew him before he was born, is saying, I have equipped you. And today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and to tear down. What have you been called to do? What has been burning up in your heart? What is that feeling of just, the desire to be doing a certain something? That will be your success. You've been equipped. Yeah, we see a Jeremiah who said, he's made up all those excuses, yet God has said, but I've designed you that way. What is it? Your influence in what you have been called. This is what we want to focus on. What is that you've been called to will be your success. Maybe you have been called to be a president. Maybe you have been called to be a Formula One driver. I don't know. You know. As you're sitting there, wherever you are tonight, you know what you've been called to do. What you've been called to do, if you've been influenced in that will be your success in your life. What is burning like a fire in your heart? So next week, we're going to be looking at that very thing about your call and your purpose in life, your life plan. We're going to continue with Jeremiah and a bit of his life story just to guide us and direct us. And we're going to be looking at that exact thing that we're going to, if you don't know what your call is, hopefully by next week you'll know what it is. We'll give you a week to think about it. I'll give you a week to just, we've got a bit more time on our hands these days. Go sit outside in the quiet. If you don't pray, maybe this is an opportunity just to say a very small prayer. I'm not asking you to make a long prayer. Whether you believe or don't believe, just say these words. What am I called to be? What is my purpose? For a lot of you, you already know what that is. And you're just making every excuse. And you're saying, I can't do it. So till next week, it's great to have had you to be able to share with you again tonight. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for any updates on new videos. I will post a couple of things in the week, so you don't want to miss out on that. And please like, share, and have a blessed evening further.